AT Show. We'll get back to talking about the debate in just a bit. Right now, though, we have with us the Sheriff of Jackson County, Mississippi, down on the Gulf Coast, Sheriff Mike Ezell. How are you doing today, Sheriff?
Hey, I'm good. Give me an opportunity.
Love to have you in here. We got a lot of stuff to talk about, and to me, one of the big ones, you're going to have some knowledge of this because you have a major interstate corridor that runs through your area, and as a result, you are more than familiar with the problems that marijuana can bring. Now we have Initiative 65 on the ballot. Just sum it up for me. What's your opinion of Initiative 65?
Well, I'm not in favor of it, number one, because it's going to be on the Constitution if this passes. You know, we don't have anything on the Constitution right now for selling or anything else. Secondly, the way that this thing is set up is that family issues. They tell me, you know, somebody with a headache can get a prescription for medical marijuana, which would result in, you know, somebody getting 5 ounces of marijuana a month. It was about 10 joints a day, 300 a month. And so, you know, with that kind of being out there like that, it'll be abused worse than it is right now, in my opinion.
Now, and let me ask you, you brought that up, and of course, Sheriff Ezell is also with us on video. You can go to supertalk.fm/watch and see him on SuperTalk TV. You mentioned about the amount of marijuana that you're allowed by Initiative 65, which is a fairly high amount. It's hard to put that in perspective for somebody like me who's never really dealt with this stuff. So I don't know how much that is. Is it a mountain of it? Is it just a small amount and you spread it out? How much marijuana is that?
Well, 5 ounces of marijuana, you know, it's 5 ounces. It's not a big pile of marijuana, but it's enough that you could make 10 joints a day. So if you think about smoking 10 joints of marijuana a day, that to me is more than smoking. And from there, if you get a family with some, you know, maybe a teenager, and the family, you know, has this, and the kids get into it, it can cause for a lot of problems. I mean, 5 ounces, you know, 10 joints a day, which equals 300 joints a month per family. If a man and a woman and family member got that much, how in the world are you going to use that much? It's just very concerning to me. And, you know, with the teenagers, you know, they're always going to get their hands on it, you know, and it's going to be shared amongst other friends. And I just don't think this is a good thing for Mississippi. If they want to get medical marijuana, let's do some more research on it. Let's do that, and so there can be, you know, prescription, you know, that kind of thing. But I just think the way that's set up right now, it's just it's going to be too easily to be accessed by our young folks.
And I think there's some confusion over one of the words you just used, because a lot of folks are saying we need more research on this. And yes, there's always a welcoming attitude towards more research regarding marijuana and its effects. But in this particular case, we're also talking about research into how we can best implement medical marijuana, because right now we're just taking the first thing that's been put down in front of us by some people who, let's be honest, may not just have the public's good in mind. There may be other factors involved, so we need to look into this and figure out what the best way to do it is. And that's something I think is getting lost, Sheriff.
Yeah, you know, I'll tell you what, there are just so many opportunities for, you know, the black market. There's so many opportunities for big marijuana business to come into the state. You know, regulations, the way it's written up right now, if it passes, you know, you'll be able to have these pot shops or distribution centers, as they call them, on all over the various cities and counties. And also Mississippi, if it passes like this, the cities or the counties won't have any opportunity to opt out of it. even liberal California has an opt-out policy or procedure in place so that if a city or a county or a particular area doesn't want it, they can opt out of it. It's not in the way it's written up here, so there won't be any options that a city or a county or a particular area can opt out of getting this distribution center in their neighborhood.
Well, exactly. There's a lot of things that are not really up for debate because it is a constitutional amendment. It's already written. The text is there. You can't even change the text that's going on to the ballot. That was something that became apparent early in this process. Once the initiative was finalized, it is what it is, and there's nothing we can do about it, which is part of the thing that we're trying to combat. Now, let me ask you this from the law enforcement perspective. What specifically, what kind of dangers, what kind of problems do you see this creating? You mentioned one already, which is there's going to be a lot of loose weed floating around in some people's houses, and that could make its way out into the community, right?
Well, you know it's going to. And I'll tell you, one of the things that has really concerned me is, there's no roadside test for testing somebody under the influence of marijuana. And we do know, studies have shown that, alcohol impaired, especially combined with marijuana, it's going to slow your reaction time. It's going to cause you to, drive. You're not prepared to meet maybe some of the emergency situations that occur on the road. If you get pulled over by the police for, weeding or whatever appears to be, some sort of careless driving, we can't test you on the side of the road like we can test you with, the alcohol testers that we have for driving on the side of the road. So, if somebody's driving under the influence of marijuana, it's going to create problems with their reaction time. It's going to cause, studies have shown that the accidents out in California and Colorado, some of the triple. And so, that's going to happen here in Mississippi. And, we've got to be able to deal with this, legally and properly. And we want to get it right. If we're going to do this, let's get it right. And, folks that actually need this for illness or sickness, that's fine. But from a law enforcement standpoint of view, the driving issues, and we already have enough wrecks. I was looking at, just this last month, I got some numbers here where, the sheriff's office had a number of crashes related to alcohol and some other things. So, this is just going to add to the law enforcement as a whole.
And we already have seen the problem with the opioid crisis, and a lot of that has been brought about through prescriptions. And in many cases, it's exactly what you're talking about. They get a prescription, they don't use it all, and somebody else that has access to the house gets it, and then it becomes a part of the community and a problem for law enforcement. And you're saying the same thing is going to happen with medical marijuana if Initiative 65 goes into effect as it's written.
Yes, sir. That's what I believe. And, I've been around long enough. I remember in junior school, marijuana was there. It's going to be here. We already know that. When people light up and smoke, they pass it around. It's kind of like back in the days with some of the alcohol out of the house and share it with their friends. I'm speaking from past experience myself. And, I'm not sitting here trying to judge anybody, but what I'm just saying is it's going to be abused. It's going to open up the black market. There's no doubt that there's going to be many prescriptions written. It's all a cash business. Nothing is done. Electronic breaks federal law. So, if we're going to do this, let's get it right. And let's get it right for the people that need it. And, but, there's always abuse or possibilities for abuse for anything. But, I just think going about it like this is the wrong way.
Now, let me ask you, you're talking about the problems for law enforcement, but to me, it seems like this is going to create a lot of gray areas where you're literally not going to know what to do when it comes to possession. Is that a valid card that they have, or is it a black market fake card, the marijuana version of a fake ID? So many different things that are going to factor into this, and for that matter, people growing it. You're going to have to go check through and see if they have a permit to grow it, or how this is working, or where it came from. There's a lot of layers to this that have to be unpacked, and that's the reason that a lot of folks are saying 65A is the way to go, so we have the chance to unpack that stuff.
Right. And we know that there's going to be so many. There's always people that are going to do things to make money, to get around the system. I tell you, on several occasions, we have made arrests on young teenagers that have driven out to Colorado and bring back brownies, all sorts of things.
Sheriff, let me interrupt you because we're up against the break. We'll continue this after the break because that's another point I want to get into. It's Sheriff Mike Ezell from Jackson County. We continue the discussion with him next on Watch. Jackson County Sheriff Mike Ezell with us on the show. Now, right before the break, and I hated to have to interrupt you, Sheriff, but you were telling a story about some teenagers that had gone to Colorado, got some stuff, and brought it back. And even if this passes, that's still going to be a problem, right?
Exactly. And like I say, we've made a number of arrests over the last couple of years where we've had some young teenagers go out to Colorado and bring back various amounts of brownies and gummies and all sorts of things. So, if for instance, if a teenager has and they have to take, how much do they take a day? Are they going to take this stuff to school? How's that going to work? As far as, accountability in school and somebody using marijuana as a prescription, how's that going to affect our schools and being on school property? It's just going to open up a big bunch of problems that, we're just going to have to learn how to deal with. Right now, I'll tell you this, just looking at some of the numbers here, the sheriff's office answered over 2,300 calls just last month alone, patrolled 298,000 miles. Just our patrol division. What's it going to do if we add this to the mix? Our calls are going to go up. Our crashes are going to go up. It's just, there's just a lot of things that need to be addressed and worked on, I think, before we go forward with this. If we need to explore that, let's get it right if we're going to do it.
Well, exactly, and I think that's the opinion of a lot of folks. But we still have widespread support in the state for medical marijuana. This is not going away, and I suspect that first question, the yays are going to have it on the ballot in a week and a half, which makes it important, no matter which way you're going to vote on that first question, vote for 65A down below it. That gives the legislature the ability to go in and figure some of these things out that you're talking about that really weren't discussed at all before this was floated out there. It just popped up as a completely done deal. Take it or leave it. There needs to be a bit more conversation about it, I think. And that sounds like it's all that you're saying.
Yes, sir. Anything that would help folks that are sick, that have major, diseases and things like that, I'm all for helping them. Nature is to try to do things for folks, but I just think that we're going about it the wrong way on this particular the way that it's come out here. It's legal in many states around the country right now. I would just ask that we really look at this really hard and get it right. We either go from one extreme to the other. So let's just try to get set down. This is probably going to happen at some point. But if it does happen, let's make sure that we get it right, so it'll be in the right hands for the right physicians to be able to issue these prescriptions and so that we can actually get it to the people that actually need it.
And do it in a responsible manner as safely as possible. I mean, no matter what, let's be honest, Sheriff, it doesn't matter what system we put in. Some of these problems that you're talking about are still going to come about, no matter how perfect of a system we come up with. The trick is to make it as small as possible, the negative effects of this, I would think. Because I don't think that we can argue that if we give it to the legislature and just let them work on this, they'll come up with the perfect plan and there will be no problems ever. There are going to be some problems no matter what, right?
Yeah. Yeah, even George Patton said, the best laid battle plan works well until the first bullet's fired. And so, what we want to do is really, if we're going to do it, again, let's get it right. Let's force them to do it right. Let's get some involvement from law enforcement and from some of the state leaders, the Attorney General's office. Let's get some folks involved in this thing, medical folks, so that we can get it done right. There's always going to be abuse for anything. We know that. But if we're going to do this, let's Mississippi be a leader in this thing, and let's get it right. We've got some good people with some good intentions, and let's get this thing done right if this happens, But as it is right now, it does not need to be on our Constitution. And if it's on the Constitution, it's going to be nearly impossible to stop changing anything.
Now, I want to change subjects just a bit before we get done here, Sheriff. You guys, we talked about it briefly yesterday. You guys in Jackson County had a horrible, tragic thing that happened yesterday that made the news that everyone's talking about. And, of course, I'm talking about the murder of Judge Sheila Osgood in Moss Point, yep, which is there in Jackson County. And I know there's not much detail you can give because it's an ongoing investigation. That's the way this works. But I just wanted to give you a chance to address the state about this case and anything that you can or you do want to get out there. This is your opportunity.
Oh, thank you very much. And, Judge Osgood was such a wonderful person. And I'm telling you what, she had an effect on everybody in such a short period of time in her tenure there at Justice Court. She was known for leaving scripture quotes to her staff and to various folks around there. And it's just a horrible tragedy that this has happened. We're working in conjunction with the Moss Point Police Department along with NPI and the District Attorney's Office to, get all this sorted out. And, it's just, I like to say for, everybody to know that, worries of someone else being out there that could have been involved in this. It's all settled. We know what happened. And, what I would say is please be praying for this family because this is going to be a terrible tragedy for everybody to get through. And, we just, and we see it more and more every day. And just be in prayer for this family.
It was a horrible, horrific story, if you will. And I understand that there's some talk in the community down there that there had been problems before between her and her son, who was also involved in this situation. And, of course, you guys haven't verified anything. You're just getting started in the investigation. But there is a lot of talk out there, and I didn't know if you wanted to address either some of the specific talk that's out there or the fact that there is talk out there and people are floating their own theories as they tend to do.
Well, anytime something like this happens, there's always various things that are said that could have been done to prevent this, and why was he there? Various things, and everybody has problems in their families. It just don't always result in something like this. And what I'd like to say again is that there are no other suspects or anything like that we're looking at that could have been a part of this. It's a terrible tragedy. It does happen. And, we're going to do everything we can do within our power to put, everything to rest and just be in prayer for this family.
This is one of the bad parts of the job, having to deal with something like this. This is not something that you ever hope you have to deal with when you decide to run for office to become sheriff. But when it pops up, well, it's on your plate then, and you have to deal with it.
It does. And, I'll tell you what, being sheriff is you're a lot more than just a law enforcement officer, anymore. I rarely get to do any police work anymore. Most of the things that I do now are all administratively and keeping the ship guided. And I've got an outstanding group at the sheriff's office here that works hard. For example, getting this radio or this interview set up here, And I couldn't have done that on my phone. We tried to do it on a computer, but it wouldn't work. But we got personnel here that set this telephone up for me. And I'm amazed. I'm sitting here talking to you, and I just and the phone coming right now. I'm gonna try for it.
I didn't know if you were getting a call or if your popcorn was done.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was a phone call, and so we have a wonderful staff here at the sheriff's office. It's just like talking about Judge Osgood. She was an elected official and known. You don't just get elected by not being known in the community and a good person, decent person, and that's such a tragedy, and it's always going to be high profile when something happens to somebody like this, and it's just it's just a terrible.
Well, keep us updated on any new developments in that. I'm sure you will. I know you will. And one more time, what's your opinion on Initiative 65?
My opinion is no. And I ask that everybody search. I know I've been criticized for this, but my opinion is the way it's set up is vote no for 65.
Vote nay and A. That's what we've been saying, just to cover all of our bases.
That's
Sheriff
right.
Mike Ezell from Jackson County, we appreciate it. We'll let you get back to work and go see what that call was. We appreciate your time, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.